Give me that thing between your legs, human. The sultry demand pierces the air, freezing Randy Hicks in his tracks as he steps off the shuttle onto Nausicaan soil. His eyes lock onto the source, a stunningly beautiful alien female, her exotic features captivating and dangerous in equal measure. Randy's hand tightens instinctively around the handle of his briefcase. The vital data inside could make or break the trade negotiations he's been sent here to conduct. Earth's future energy crisis hangs in the balance, hinging on his ability to broker a deal for the Nausicaans' powerful energy source. I'm Randy Hicks, Earth's diplomatic envoy, he manages, heart pounding. And you are? Lara, the Nausicaan purrs, her gaze fixated on the case. Your liaison. Now hand over that thing. Confusion gives way to alarm as Lara lunges for the briefcase. Randy pivots, barely keeping it out of her reach. Wait, this contains classified information. I can't just... His protest is cut short as Lara tackles him, her strength catching him off guard. They grapple on the spaceport floor, attracting the attention of nearby Nausicaan guards. Alarms blare, echoing through the terminal. Espionage, a guard shouts, leveling a weapon at Randy. The humans seek to deceive us. Panic surges through Randy as he realizes how quickly the situation has spiraled out of control. He releases the briefcase, raising his hands in surrender. This is a misunderstanding. I'm here on a diplomatic mission. But his words fall on deaf ears. The guards encircle him, their hostile intent clear. Randy's mind races, searching for a way to salvage this disaster. Earth needs this deal. Billions of lives depend on securing a new energy source. As night falls, Randy finds himself confined to his assigned quarters, the weight of failure crushing down on him. A soft knock at the door reveals Lara, her earlier aggression replaced by something more intriguing. I apologize for the confusion, she says, entering the room. Our cultures have much to learn from each other. Randy eyes her warily, acutely aware of their solitude and the crackling tension between them. We need to clear this up. Earth isn't spying on anyone. We came here in good faith, seeking an alliance. Lara moves closer, her alien beauty impossible to ignore. Perhaps we can start that alliance here now. Show me what's in that case, Randy Hicks. Prove your intentions are pure. As Randy reaches for the briefcase, he knows the fate of interstellar relations hangs in the balance. Can he overcome cultural differences and forge a deeper connection with Lara? Or will misunderstanding and attraction lead to the collapse of everything he came here to achieve? The answer lies in that thing between his legs, the briefcase that holds the key to humanity's future, and, just maybe, the beginning of an unexpected bond between two worlds. Randy's fingers trembled as he reached for the briefcase. Lara's intense gaze followed his every move, her alien features a mix of curiosity and anticipation. The room felt charged with an electric tension that had nothing to do with the energy crisis they were meant to discuss. Before I show you this, Randy said, his voice low, I need your word that you'll hear me out. This information is vital for both our worlds. Lara nodded, her eyes never leaving the case. You have my word. Randy Hicks of Earth. With a deep breath, Randy opened the briefcase. The soft click of the latches seemed to echo in the quiet room. He pulled out a sleek data pad and activated it, causing a holographic display to spring to life between them. This is what I came to show your people, Randy explained, gesturing to the complex graphs and charts hovering in the air. Earth's energy reserves are critically low. We're facing a crisis that could plunge our entire planet into darkness within a decade. Lara leaned in, her face bathed in the blue glow of the hologram. Her proximity sent a shiver down Randy's spine, but he forced himself to focus on the task at hand. Fascinating, Lara murmured, reaching out to manipulate the display. Her fingers danced through the light, zooming in on various data points. Your technology is impressive. Randy allowed himself a small smile. Thank you, but it's not enough. We need a new, powerful energy source to sustain our civilization. That's why I'm here. Lara's eyes snapped to his, a new intensity in her gaze. You've heard rumors of our energy project. It wasn't a question. Randy nodded, feeling as though he was walking a razor's edge. We have, and we hope to propose an exchange of knowledge and resources that could benefit both our species. Lara was quiet for a long moment, her alien features unreadable. Then, to Randy's surprise, she let out a small laugh. "It seems our peoples are more alike than we realized," Randy hicks. She reached into a hidden pocket in her clothing and pulled out a small device. With a few taps, she projected her own hologram alongside Randy's. The new display showed a swirling vortex of energy, pulsing with awe-inspiring power. "This is what we've discovered," Lara explained, her voice tinged with excitement. "A way to harness energy from our planet's magnetic field. It's incredibly powerful, but unstable," Randy finished, his eyes wide as he studied the display. "You can't contain it safely." Lara nodded, her expression a mix of frustration and hope. "Exactly. We've lost several research facilities to containment breaches, but if what you're showing me about Earth containment systems is accurate, we might be able to solve both our problems." Randy breathed, his mind racing with possibilities. The air between them seemed to crackle with more than just holographic energy. Randy found himself drawn to Lara's alien beauty, her intelligence and passion igniting something within him. He could see a similar spark in her eyes. Their moment of shared excitement was shattered by a sharp knock at the door. Randy quickly deactivated his hologram, as Lara did the same. The door slid open to reveal a towering Nausicaan male, his face set in a scowl. "Captain Zorn," Lara said, her voice suddenly formal. "What brings you here at this hour?" The Nausicaaan's eyes narrowed as he took in the scene before him. "The human delegation has been ordered to leave immediately. I'm here to escort Mr. Hicks to the spaceport." Randy's heart sank. All their progress, the potential breakthrough they just discovered, it was all about to slip away. He opened his mouth to protest, but Lara beat him to it. "Captain," she said, stepping forward, "Randy and I have made a significant scientific discovery, one that could benefit both our species enormously. We need to present our findings to the High Council before any rash decisions are made." Zorn's scowl deepened. "And why should I believe this isn't some human trick?" Lara stood tall, meeting the captain's gaze without flinching. "Because I stake my reputation on it. Give us 1 hour with the council. If our claims prove false, I'll personally see the humans off-world." The tension in the room was palpable as Zorn considered Lara's words. Randy held his breath, acutely aware that the fate of Earth's energy crisis, and perhaps the future of human-Nausicaan relations, hung in the balance. Finally, Zorn grunted. 1 hour, not a minute more. And if this is a deception... He let the threat hang in the air as he turned and left the room. As the door slid shut behind him, Randy and Lara exchanged a look of relief tinged with apprehension. They had a chance, but the real challenge lay ahead. "We'd better get to work," Randy said, reopening his briefcase. "We've got one shot at this." Lara nodded, her dedication mirroring his own. As they bent over their data, preparing their presentation for the High Council, Randy couldn't help but feel that something momentous was beginning. Not just for their two worlds, but for the two of them as well. The Nausicaan night deepened outside, but inside Randy's quarters, a new dawn of possibilities was breaking. The first rays of dawn painted the Nausicaan sky in hues of crimson and gold as Randy and Lara made their way to the imposing High Council chambers. The weight of their impending presentation pressed heavily on Randy's shoulders, but Lara's presence beside him provided a strange comfort. Captain Zorn and his security detail flanked them as they entered the grand hall. Randy's breath caught in his throat as he took in the sight of the council members perched on their elevated seats. Their alien features, so similar yet so different from Lara's, were set in expressions of wary curiosity. Randy stepped forward, his hands steady as he activated the holographic display. "Honorable council members," he began, his voice clear and confident despite his racing heart. "I stand before you to clear up a grave misunderstanding." As he spoke, explaining the events at the spaceport and presenting evidence from his briefcase, Randy could feel the council's suspicion slowly giving way to interest. Lara interjected at key moments, her scientific explanations complementing his narrative perfectly. Suddenly, the lights flickered, casting eerie shadows across the chamber. Lara's eyes widened, and she seized the moment. "Esteemed council," she said, her voice carrying a hint of urgency, What you just witnessed is a symptom of the instability plaguing our energy technology. She produced a small device from her pocket, activating it with a quick gesture. The device hummed to life, its core pulsing with an ominous glow. As the energy output began to spike erratically, Randy recognized the telltale signs of an impending overload. Without hesitation, he stepped forward. "Allow me to demonstrate how Earth's containment systems can help," he said, his fingers flying over the device's controls. The pulsing energy smoothed out, the dangerous spikes disappearing as Randy applied the principles of Earth's technology. The council members leaned forward, their eyes fixed on the now stable device. Randy could almost see the wheels turning in their minds as they processed the implications of this impromptu demonstration. As Randy and Lara concluded their presentation, the chamber erupted into a cacophony of voices. Some council members argued passionately for immediate collaboration, while others, led by a gruff-looking Nausicaan named Grok, demanded the humans' expulsion. "We cannot trust these outsiders," Grok bellowed, his fist slamming against his chair. Their smooth words and fancy tricks could be nothing more than an elaborate deception. Before anyone could respond, a piercing alarm cut through the chaos. Captain Zorn's communicator crackled to life, and his face paled as he listened to the urgent message. "Council members," Zorn announced, his voice grave, "there's been a critical failure at the main energy facility. The core is destabilizing rapidly. If we don't act quickly, the resulting explosion could level the entire capital." A hush fell over the chamber, broken only by the continued wail of the alarm. All eyes turned to Randy and Lara. The head of the council, a statuesque Nausicaan with intricate facial markings, stood. "It seems fate has provided us with an opportunity to test your claims, humans. You will lead an emergency team to the facility. Prove your worth as allies by saving our city." Randy's heart pounded as he nodded, acutely aware of the enormous responsibility that had just been placed on his shoulders. He turned to Lara, seeing his own mix of fear and perseverance reflected in her eyes. "We'll need every scrap of data on your energy systems," Randy said as they hurried from the chamber, "and whatever equipment we can get our hands on to modify the containment field." Lara barked orders to nearby Nausicaan technicians, who scrambled to gather the requested materials. As they rushed through the city streets towards the facility, Randy's mind raced, formulating and discarding plans. The scene that greeted them at the energy facility was one of impossibly strong chaos. Nausicaan workers fled the building in droves, their faces etched with terror. The air itself seemed to vibrate with the raw power emanating from the unstable core. Randy and Lara pushed their way through the panicked crowd, their newly assembled team close behind. As they entered the main control room, the full scope of the crisis became clear. Holographic displays showed the core's energy levels spiking wildly, each surge bringing it closer to a catastrophic overload. "We need to create a modified containment field," Randy shouted over the blaring alarms. "Something that can handle the unique properties of your energy source while incorporating the stability of Earth's systems." Lara nodded, her fingers flying over the control panels. "I can reconfigure our emitters to accept the new parameters, but someone will need to manually activate the field from inside the core chamber." Their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. The person who entered that chamber might not come out alive. As they worked feverishly to implement their desperate plan, Randy found himself hyper-aware of Lara's presence. Their hands brushed as they made adjustments to the containment field, sending a jolt through Randy that had nothing to do with the crackling energy around them. Time seemed to stretch and compress as they raced against the clock. The core's energy levels continued to climb, each passing moment bringing them closer to disaster. Finally, after what felt like hours but could only have been minutes, their makeshift containment system was ready. Randy took a deep breath, steeling himself for what he knew he had to do. "I'm going in," he announced, already moving towards the sealed door that led to the core chamber. Lara grabbed his arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "Randy, wait," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "It's too dangerous. Let me—" He cut her off with a shake of his head. "You're the only one who fully understands both systems. If something goes wrong, you're the best chance of fixing it." For a moment, it seemed Lara might argue further. Instead, she pulled Randy into a fierce embrace. "Be careful," she whispered, her breath warm against his ear. As Randy stepped into the airlock, he could hear Lara's voice over the comm system, guiding him through the activation sequence. The inner door hissed open, revealing the pulsing heart of the Nausicaan energy core. The raw power in the air made Randy's hair stand on end as he approached the central console. His hands moved swiftly, inputting the complex series of commands that would activate the new containment field. Just as he entered the final sequence, a surge of energy lashed out from the core. Randy was thrown backwards, his vision blurring as his head struck the wall. Through the haze of pain, he could hear Lara's frantic voice calling his name. With a monumental effort, Randy dragged himself back to the console. His fingers, clumsy and shaking, found the activation switch. As darkness crept in at the edges of his vision, Randy pulled the lever. The facility shuddered as the containment field sprang to life. Randy felt the oppressive weight of the unstable energy lessen, replaced by the steady hum of controlled power. He allowed himself a small smile before consciousness slipped away. When Randy came to, he found himself looking up into Lara's concerned face. The relief in her eyes was palpable as she helped him to his feet. "You did it," she said, her voice filled with awe. "The core is stable. You saved the city." Before Randy could respond, Lara pulled him close and kissed him deeply. The passion of their embrace rivaled the energy they had just contained, speaking volumes about the connection that had formed between them. As they broke apart, breathless, Randy became aware of the cheering Nausicaan workers surrounding them. Their earlier fear had been replaced by jubilation and gratitude. Captain Zorn approached, his stern features softened by a look of grudging respect. "The council is reconvening," he announced. "Your presence is requested immediately." As they made their way back to the council chambers, Randy's mind whirled with the implications of what had just transpired. They had averted a catastrophe and potentially laid the groundwork for a new alliance between their species. And yet, as he glanced at Lara walking beside him, Randy realized that the most significant change might be a far more personal one. The future, both for their worlds and for themselves, suddenly seemed full of possibilities. But as they entered the council chambers to face whatever came next, Randy knew that the challenges were nowhere near the end. End of the day, they had only just begun. As dawn broke over the Nausicaan capital, Randy stirred in his quarters, the events of the previous day still vivid in his mind. The memory of Lara's kiss lingered, a bright spot amidst the chaos of the energy crisis. He stretched, wincing at the stiffness in his muscles, a reminder of his close call in the core chamber. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. Randy sat up, reaching for his communication device. Ambassador Steele's face appeared on the screen, his expression a mix of pride and urgency. "Excellent work yesterday, Randy," Steele said without preamble. "You've made quite an impression on our Nausicaan friends, but we need to capitalize on this momentum. Earth wants a formal alliance, focusing on energy technology exchange and mutual defense. You're our point man for the negotiations." Randy's eyebrows rose. "Sir, I'm honored, but—" "No buts, son. You've proven yourself more than capable. I'll be there to support you, but you'll be taking the lead. We're convening in 2 hours. Be ready." The screen went dark, leaving Randy to process the weight of his new responsibility. He dressed quickly, his mind racing through potential strategies and pitfalls. A knock at his door pulled him from his thoughts. He opened it to find Lara standing there, her eyes bright with excitement. "Randy, I have news," she said, stepping into the room. "The council has appointed me as the Nausicaan representative for the alliance talks. They felt my scientific background and our collaboration during the crisis made me the ideal choice." Randy's heart leapt at the sight of her, but he forced himself to focus on the implications of her words. "That's fantastic, Lara. It'll be good to have a friendly face across the table." Lara's expression sobered. "It won't be that simple, Randy. I have to represent my people's interests just as you do yours. This won't be easy." He nodded, understanding the complexities they faced. "We'll find a way to make it work. For both our peoples." They shared a moment of silent understanding before Lara left to prepare for the negotiations. Randy finished gathering his materials, steeling himself for the challenge ahead. 2 hours later, Randy entered the grand hall where the negotiations were to take place. The room was a testament to Nausicaan architecture, with soaring ceilings and intricate stone carvings. At the center stood a massive table, its surface embedded with holographic displays. Randy took his seat on the Earth side, with Ambassador Steele to his right. Across the table, Lara sat with the Nausicaan delegation, her posture straight and professional. At the head of their group sat High Counselor Grok, his expression stern and unyielding. As the talks began, Randy quickly realized the magnitude of the task before them. The Nausicaans, while grateful for Earth's assistance during the crisis, were deeply protective of their energy technology. "We cannot risk our advancements falling into the wrong hands," Grok argued, his voice rumbling through the chamber. "How can we be certain Earth won't weaponize our technology?" Randy leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. "Counselor, we understand your concerns. Earth is willing to agree to strict oversight and usage protocols. Our interest is in sustainable energy, not weapons." The discussions continued with both sides presenting proposals and counter-proposals. Randy found himself constantly aware of Lara's presence across the table. Their eyes met occasionally, exchanging glances of encouragement or frustration as the talks ebbed and flowed. As the first day of negotiations drew to a close, little concrete progress had been made. The Earth delegation was pushing for a mutual defense pact, but the Nausicaans remained hesitant, citing concerns about Earth's motivations. During a recess, Randy slipped away from his team, needing a moment of quiet to gather his thoughts. He found himself in a secluded garden within the diplomatic complex, surrounded by strange, bioluminescent plants that pulsed with soft light. "Tough crowd in there," Lara's voice came from behind him. She approached, her expression a mix of sympathy and perseverance. Randy sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You could say that. Your Counselor Grok is a hard nut to crack." Lara nodded, stepping closer. "He's old guard, suspicious of outsiders, but not all Nausicaans share his views." They began to discuss potential compromises, their conversation gradually shifting from professional to personal. Randy found himself acutely aware of Lara's proximity, the way her eyes lit up as she spoke passionately about the potential benefits of an alliance. As they talked, neither noticed the shadowy figure of Captain Zorn, observing their interaction from a hidden alcove. The captain's eyes narrowed as he watched the human and Nausicaan diplomats, their body language betraying a closeness that went beyond professional courtesy. Zorn slipped away, his mind already formulating a report to High Counselor Grok. As he moved through the corridors of the diplomatic complex, he couldn't shake the feeling that this human-Nausicaan alliance might bring changes that not everyone was prepared for. In the garden, oblivious to Zorn's surveillance, Randy and Lara continued their discussion, their words interspersed with moments of comfortable silence and subtle flirtation. As the Nausicaan moons rose in the alien sky, casting a soft glow over the garden, both knew that the real challenges of the alliance negotiations were just beginning. As Randy contemplated the challenges ahead, a message flashed on his communicator. It was from Lara, urgently requesting his presence at an undisclosed location. Intrigued and slightly concerned, Randy made his way out of the diplomatic complex, careful to avoid drawing attention. Following Lara's cryptic instructions, he found himself approaching an abandoned research facility on the outskirts of the Nausicaan capital. The dilapidated structure loomed before him, its once gleaming surfaces now tarnished and overgrown. Randy hesitated at the entrance, his instincts warning him of potential danger. Taking a deep breath, he stepped inside. The interior was dark, save for the soft glow emanating from ancient computer terminals. As his eyes adjusted, Randy spotted Lara's familiar silhouette. She stood hunched over a console, her alien features illuminated by the flickering screens. "Randy," Lara said, her voice tight with tension. "I'm glad you came. What I've discovered, it changes everything." She handed him a small data chip, her fingers brushing against his palm. "Dr. Krell is part of a secret Nausicaan extremist group called the Purity Front. They believe any alliance with humans will weaken our species and dilute our culture." Randy's mind raced as he processed this information. "How did you find this out?" Lara gestured to the surrounding terminals. "I've been digging through old research files, following a hunch. This facility was once used for genetic studies. The Purity Front has been using it as a base of operations. She pulled up a series of documents on the nearest screen. They're planning to sabotage the negotiations, Randy. And that's not all. There's evidence of a potential attack on Earth's delegation. Before Randy could respond, a piercing alarm shattered the silence. Red lights began flashing throughout the facility. "It's a trap," Lara gasped, her eyes wide with fear. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the corridors. Randy grabbed Lara's hand, pulling her away from the console. "We need to move. Now." They sprinted deeper into the facility, navigating a maze of corridors and abandoned laboratories. The shouts of security forces grew louder behind them. As they rounded a corner, Randy caught sight of a familiar face leading the pursuit. "Captain Zorn," he muttered. "Should have known he was involved." Lara pulled Randy into a darkened room, pressing herself against him as they hid behind a row of derelict equipment. Their breath mingled in the close quarters, hearts pounding in unison. For a moment, the world seemed to shrink to just the two of them. Randy looked into Lara's eyes, seeing fear, dedication, and something else, a spark of attraction that mirrored his own feelings. Without thinking, he leaned in, capturing her lips in a passionate kiss. The moment was broken by the sound of approaching footsteps. Lara pulled away, her expression a mix of surprise and longing. "We can't stay here," she whispered. They continued their flight through the facility, their hands intertwined. As they descended deeper into the complex, the architecture changed, becoming sleeker and more modern. "Look," Lara said, pointing ahead. A hangar. They entered a vast chamber housing a single streamlined craft. Its design was unlike anything Randy had seen before. "An experimental Nausicaan shuttle," Lara explained, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her fear. "It's supposed to be years ahead of our current technology." Randy approached the shuttle, his diplomatic training in alien technologies kicking in. He ran his hands over the smooth surface, searching for an entry point. With a soft hiss, a hatch opened. "How did you do that?" Lara asked, impressed. Randy grinned despite the gravity of their situation. "Sometimes you just need the right touch." They clambered inside, Randy taking the pilot's seat. His fingers danced over the controls, deciphering the alien interface with remarkable speed. Just as the engines hummed to life, the hangar doors burst open. Captain Zorn and his security forces poured in, weapons raised. "Hold on," Randy warned as he engaged the thrusters. The shuttle lifted off, narrowly avoiding a barrage of energy blasts. They shot out of the hangar and into the night sky of the Nausicaan homeworld. Randy pushed the craft to its limits, weaving through the cityscape in an attempt to shake their pursuers. "We need to find somewhere safe to transmit the data," Lara said, her fingers flying over a console. "The energy facility. If we can boost its containment field, we might be able to create a temporary safe zone." Randy nodded, adjusting their course. As they approached the familiar silhouette of the energy facility, a new threat emerged. Energy beams lanced out from the structure, barely missing the shuttle. "It's Dr. Krell," Lara realized, her voice filled with dread. "He must have anticipated our move and taken control of the facility's defenses." Randy gritted his teeth, executing a series of daring maneuvers to evade the incoming fire. Despite his best efforts, the shuttle took several hits, alarms blaring as systems began to fail. "We're going down," he announced, fighting with the controls. "Brace for impact." With a bone-jarring crash, the shuttle plowed into the facility's main courtyard. As the dust settled, Randy and Lara emerged from the wreckage, battered but alive. They found themselves surrounded. On one side, Captain Zorn and his security forces closed in. On the other, Dr. Krell stood with a group of armed extremists, their weapons trained on the pair. Randy and Lara exchanged a determined look. They had come too far to give up now. With a shared nod of understanding, they made a break for the facility's entrance, running headlong into the storm of chaos that awaited them. As Randy and Lara burst through the facility's entrance, they found themselves in a chaotic scene. Alarms blared, and the air crackled with tension. Captain Zorn's security forces and Dr. Krell's extremists had them surrounded, weapons trained on the pair. Randy's mind raced, assessing the situation. He knew they had only moments before the standoff erupted into violence. With a deep breath, he raised his hands in a gesture of peace and stepped forward. "Everyone, please, let's not do anything rash," he called out, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "There's more going on here than you realize." Captain Zorn's eyes narrowed. "Stand down, human. You're interfering with Nausicaan security matters." "Am I?" Randy countered, his gaze moving between Zorn and Krell. "Or am I preventing a catastrophic mistake?" As Randy spoke, Lara edged towards a nearby control panel. Her fingers flew over the alien interface, initiating the upload of the evidence they discovered. Randy continued, his words carefully chosen to appeal to both sides. "We've uncovered a plot that threatens not just the alliance negotiations, but the very fabric of Nausicaan society." Dr. Krell sneered. "Nonsense! This human is trying to manipulate you, Captain. Arrest them both!" Suddenly, the facility's systems began to overload. Warning klaxons joined the cacophony of alarms, and pulsing red emergency lights bathed the room. The unexpected development momentarily distracted all parties. Randy seized the opportunity. Dr. Krell is part of an extremist group called the Purity Front. They're planning to sabotage the alliance negotiations and possibly attack Earth's delegation. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the gathered forces. Captain Zorn's expression wavered, uncertainty creeping into his eyes. "It's true," Lara called out, her voice rising above the din. "I've just uploaded proof to both the Nausicaan High Council and Earth's delegation." As if on cue, screens throughout the facility lit up with data streams and incriminating documents. The evidence was irrefutable, detailing the Purity Front's activities and Dr. Krell's involvement. Captain Zorn's face hardened as he processed the information. His gaze shifted from Randy to Dr. Krell, torn between his duty and the orders he'd been following. In that pivotal moment, Zorn made his decision. "Security forces, stand down," he commanded. "Detain Dr. Krell and his followers." As Zorn's troops moved to apprehend the extremists, Dr. Krell's hand darted to a hidden device on his belt. "You fools," he snarled. "I'll destroy this facility before I let aliens corrupt our world." The doctor activated the device and a massive surge of energy coursed through the building. The entire structure shook, and warning signals blared even louder. "He's overloading the energy core," Lara shouted, her eyes wide with panic. "If it goes critical, it'll take out the entire capital." Without hesitation, Randy and Lara sprinted to the facility's main control panel. They worked in perfect sync, their hands dancing over the controls as they fought to stabilize the energy core. "Reroute the power through the secondary containment grid," Lara instructed, her scientific knowledge proving invaluable. Randy nodded, his fingers flying across the unfamiliar interface. "Got it. Initiating emergency shutdown protocols." As they worked, their bodies pressed close in the confined space of the control station. Randy could feel the heat of Lara's skin, smell the faint alien scent of her hair. Despite the dire circumstances, he found himself acutely aware of her presence. Seconds ticked by like hours as they battled to prevent a catastrophic meltdown. Sweat beaded on their foreheads, and their breath came in short gasps. "Almost there," Lara murmured, her eyes fixed on the fluctuating energy readings. With a final push, Randy engaged the last failsafe. The facility hummed, then fell silent as the energy core stabilized. A collective sigh of relief echoed through the room. In the aftermath, Captain Zorn efficiently took Dr. Krell and his followers into custody. The extremists were led away, their plans in ruins. As the adrenaline began to fade, Randy's communicator chirped. It was Ambassador Steele, her voice tight with urgency. "Randy, the evidence you transmitted has caused an uproar. Both the Nausicaan High Council and Earth's government have called emergency sessions. You and Lara are being summoned to a joint hearing immediately." Randy exchanged a look with Lara, seeing his own mix of exhaustion and grit mirrored in her eyes. They had prevented a disaster, but their work was not nearly finished. As they prepared to leave the facility, Randy and Lara found themselves alone for a moment. The intensity of their shared experience hung in the air between them. Lara reached out, her hand gently touching Randy's arm. "Thank you," she said softly, "for trusting me, for everything." Randy's heart raced at her touch. He wanted to pull her close, to give in to the attraction that had been building between them. Instead, he simply nodded, acutely aware of the challenges that lay ahead. "We should go," he said, his voice husky. "They're waiting for us." As they stepped out of the facility and into the alien sunlight, Randy knew that the next few hours would shape the future of human-Nausicaan relations. And perhaps, he dared to hope, their own interspecies relationship as well. The journey to the High Council chambers was a blur of activity. As their transport weaved through the Nausicaan capital, Randy and Lara prepared themselves for the hearing that would determine the fate of the alliance. Alliance between humans and Nausicaans. As their transport glided to a stop outside the imposing High Council chambers, Randy took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenges ahead. The Grand Hall buzzed with activity as representatives from both species filed in. Randy and Lara were ushered to a central podium, all eyes fixed upon them. High Counselor Grok, his craggy features set in a stern expression, called the session to order. "We reconvene this joint assembly to hear testimony from the human diplomat Randy and Nausicaan scientist Lara regarding recent events," Grok announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. For hours, Randy and Lara recounted their experiences, presenting evidence and fielding questions from both sides. The atmosphere grew tense as they delved into the specifics of energy technology sharing and cultural exchange programs. As the session broke for recess, Randy found himself cornered by a human diplomat he recognized as Marcus Chen. The older man's eyes gleamed with interest. "Impressive work out there, Randy," Chen said, clapping him on the shoulder. "Earth's government has taken notice. We'd like to offer you a permanent position as our ambassador to Nausicaa." Randy blinked, momentarily stunned. "Sir, I don't know what to say." Chen smiled. "Think it over. It's a significant opportunity, but I understand it's also a big commitment. You'd be staying here indefinitely." As Chen walked away, Randy's mind whirled with the implications. He glanced across the room, catching Lara's eye. She was deep in conversation with a group of Nausicaan scientists, her animated gestures betraying her excitement. Before he could make his way to her, the chamber doors burst open. A group of aliens, unlike any Randy had seen before, strode in. Their scaled skin and imperious bearing immediately commanded attention. "Who are they?" Randy whispered to a nearby aide. "The Voth," the aide replied, his voice hushed. "An advanced species from a neighboring system. They rarely involve themselves in galactic affairs." The leader of the Voth delegation, a stern-faced female, approached High Counselor Grok. "I am Zarlith," she announced, her voice carrying throughout the suddenly silent chamber. "We demand inclusion in these negotiations." Grok's face darkened. "This is highly irregular, Zarlith. These talks concern matters between Nausicaa and Earth." Zarlith's eyes narrowed. "A partnership that could shift the balance of power in this sector. The Voth will not stand idly by." As murmurs of discontent rippled through the assembly, Randy caught Ambassador Steele's eye. She jerked her head, summoning him to a hasty conference with Grok and other key figures. "This could derail everything," Steele muttered as Randy joined them. Grok nodded grimly. "We cannot simply dismiss the Voth. Their technological capabilities are significant." Randy's diplomatic instincts kicked in. "Then we bring them in," he suggested. "Make this a three-way negotiation. It complicates things, but it could also lead to greater stability in the region." Steele raised an eyebrow. "Bold move, Randy, but you might be right." "Grok?" The Nausicaan counselor considered for a moment, then nodded. "Agreed. Randy, you'll take point on this. Your handling of the crisis has earned you some trust on all sides." As the group dispersed, Randy searched the crowd for Lara. He spotted her near a bank of computers, her face creased with worry as she spoke to a fellow Nausicaan in hushed tones. He made his way to her side. "Lara, what's wrong?" She glanced around before leaning in close. "I've received a warning. Some hardliners are planning to discredit me by revealing our connection. They're framing it as a betrayal of Nausicaan interests." Randy's heart sank. He wanted to pull her close, to assure her that they'd face this together, but he knew such a display would only fuel their opponent's fire. Instead, he squeezed her hand briefly. "We'll handle it. Right now, we need to focus on these negotiations. With the Voth involved, things just got a lot more complicated. Lara nodded, her expression determined. I'll keep working on the energy containment research. If we can make a breakthrough, it might help bring all sides together. As they parted ways, Randy steeled himself for the task ahead. He approached Zarlith, who stood apart from the crowd, her reptilian features unreadable. Greetings, Zarlith, Randy said, bowing slightly. I'm Randy, representing Earth in these talks. We welcome the Voth's input and hope to find a solution that benefits all our peoples. Zarlith's gaze bore into him. Pretty words, human, but know this. The Voth possess energy technology that surpasses even the Nausicaans. We will not be sidelined in this new galactic order you seek to create. As Randy processed this new information, alarms began to blare throughout the chamber. Security forces rushed in, their weapons drawn. What's happening? Randy demanded, his heart racing. A Nausicaan officer approached, his face grim. Sir, we've just received word. The scientist Lara has been abducted by Purity Front extremists. They're demanding we halt the alliance negotiations, or they'll destroy her research, and her with it. Randy's world tilted on its axis. As the chamber erupted into chaos around him, he faced a critical decision. Continue with the now fragile diplomatic talks, or lead a rescue mission to save Lara and her vital research. The fate of multiple worlds hung in the balance, but in that moment, all Randy could think about was Lara's safety and the growing realization of just how much she meant to him. Without hesitation, Randy made his decision. I'm going after her, he declared, his voice firm. We need Lara and her research to make this alliance work. Ambassador Steele nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. Go, I'll hold things together here as best I can. Randy quickly assembled a diverse rescue team, drawing from the human delegation, loyal Nausicaans, and even a Voth security expert named Zix, whose advanced technology could prove invaluable. As the first rays of dawn broke over the Nausicaan wilderness, Randy led his team toward the hidden Purity Front compound. They moved swiftly and silently, utilizing Earth stealth technology and Nausicaan terrain knowledge to bypass the outer perimeter undetected. Inside the compound, Lara found herself surrounded by Purity Front extremists in a makeshift laboratory. The group's leader, a fanatical Nausicaan scientist called Drac, loomed over her. Destroy your research, Drac demanded, his voice dripping with contempt. We will not allow alien influence to corrupt our world. Lara stood her ground, her eyes flashing defiantly. Never! This work is too important for all our peoples. Drac's face contorted with rage. Prepare for drastic measures, he snarled to his followers. Meanwhile, Randy's team infiltrated the compound through an underground maintenance tunnel. The narrow passage echoed with the sound of their careful footsteps and the hum of Zix's advanced scanning technology. Suddenly, they encountered resistance. Purity Front guards emerged from side passages, weapons raised. The tunnel erupted into chaos as both sides engaged in intense close-quarters combat. Randy ducked under a swing from a Purity Front member, then countered with a swift strike to the solar plexus. Beside him, a loyal Nausicaan ally grappled with two opponents, using his superior strength to slam them against the wall. Zix proved his worth, using his scanner to anticipate enemy movements and direct the team's efforts. 3 hostiles approaching from the left junction, he called out, his scaled fingers dancing across the device's interface. As they fought their way deeper into the compound, Randy's mind raced with concern for Lara. The sound of alarms blaring in the distance only heightened his urgency. Back in the Nausicaan capital, Ambassador Steele struggled to maintain the fragile alliance talks. The Grand Chamber, once filled with hope for cooperation, now crackled with tension. Zarlith, the Voth representative, rose from her seat, her reptilian features set in a scowl. This delay is unacceptable. The Voth will not be treated as an afterthought in these negotiations. High Counselor Grok attempted to mediate, his gravelly voice echoing through the chamber. Please, esteemed Zarlith, we face an unprecedented situation. I assure you, we value the Voth's participation. But Zarlith remained unconvinced, her cold gaze sweeping across the assembled diplomats. Perhaps we have misjudged the readiness of your species for this level of cooperation. As the diplomatic crisis deepened, Randy's team finally reached the central laboratory. They burst through the doors just as Drac was about to force a vial of sickly green liquid towards Lara's mouth. "Stop!" Randy shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. The room froze for a moment, a tableau of tension. Lara's eyes met Randy's, relief flooding her features. Then, seizing the moment of distraction, she drove her elbow into Drac's stomach and wrenched herself free. In the ensuing confusion, Lara lunged for a nearby console, her fingers flying across the controls. "Got it!" she exclaimed, retrieving a small data crystal containing her vital research. Drac, recovering from Lara's blow, let out a howl of rage. "If I can't have it, no one will!" He banged his hand down on a large red button on the wall. The facility shuddered, and a computerized voice announced, "Self-destruct sequence initiated. All personnel evacuate immediately." Randy grabbed Lara's hand, pulling her towards the exit. "We need to move. Now." As they ran, the compound began to crumble around them. Chunks of ceiling crashed down, forcing the team to dodge and weave. Zix's scanner proved invaluable once again, guiding them through the safest route. "Left here," the Voth called out, pointing down a less damaged corridor. They were nearly at the exit when Drac appeared before them, wielding a menacing weapon that crackled with unstable energy. "You've ruined everything," he snarled, leveling the prototype at the group. Randy and Lara exchanged a quick glance, years of unspoken trust passing between them in an instant. As one, they moved. Randy feinted left, drawing Drac's attention, while Lara struck from the right, her hand connecting with the weapon and sending it clattering to the floor. In the brief struggle that followed, their teamwork proved decisive. Randy grappled with Drac, pinning his arms, while Lara delivered a precise strike to a nerve cluster, leaving the Purity Front leader unconscious. "Come on," Zix urged, his scanner beeping frantically. "The power core is reaching critical levels." They sprinted the final distance, bursting out of the compound just as a massive explosion rocked the area. The team was thrown to the ground by the shockwave, the Nausicaan sky lit up by the eruption of energy behind them. As they caught their breath, Randy and Lara found themselves side by side. Their eyes met, a moment of unspoken emotion passing between them. But before either could speak, a urgent communication came through on Randy's device. Ambassador Steele's voice crackled with static and worry. "Randy, the situation here has deteriorated rapidly. The Voth are threatening to leave, and the Alliance is on the brink of collapse. There's unrest in the capital as news of the Purity Front's actions spreads. We need you back here immediately." Randy helped Lara to her feet, his hand lingering on hers for a moment longer than necessary. "We're on our way," he replied, looking at his team. "And we're bringing more than just Lara's research. We're bringing proof that this alliance can work." As they boarded a high-speed transport back to the capital, Randy and Lara sat close together, the data crystal secure between them. The fate of 3 species hung in the balance, dependent on their ability to salvage the diplomatic talks and present Lara's groundbreaking energy solution. The transport hummed as it accelerated towards the Nausicaan capital, a city now teetering on the edge of historic change. Randy and Lara exchanged a determined look, silently preparing themselves for the challenges that lay ahead, both diplomatic and personal. Personal and diplomatic. As the transport accelerated towards the Nausicaan capital, Randy felt a surge of hope. They had overcome incredible odds to secure Lara's research, and now they had a real chance to salvage the alliance talks. Suddenly, the transport shuddered violently. Alarms blared as the vehicle lurched, throwing its occupants off balance. Randy grabbed onto a nearby handhold, his other arm instinctively reaching out to steady Lara. "What's happening?" he shouted over the cacophony of warning signals. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom, tight with tension. "We've lost primary power. The energy core's been compromised, preparing for emergency landing." The transport plummeted through the Nausicaan sky, the lush wilderness below growing alarmingly close. With a bone-jarring impact, they hit the ground, skidding to a halt in a clearing surrounded by dense alien foliage. As the dust settled, Randy did a quick head count. "Everyone okay?" Groans and affirmatives echoed through the cabin. Lara was already on her feet, making her way to the transport's control panel. Her fingers flew over the display, her face growing grimmer by the second. "This wasn't an accident," she announced, turning to face the group. "The energy core's been sabotaged. My guess? Purity Front sympathizers at the spaceport." Randy's mind raced. They were stranded in the middle of nowhere, with no way to contact the capital. Every minute lost put the alliance talks in greater jeopardy. "All right, we need to move fast," he said, taking charge. "Zix, can your scanner pick up any settlements or communication arrays nearby?" The Voth security expert shook his head, his scaled fingers dancing across his device. "Nothing within range. We're truly isolated out here." Randy nodded, processing the information. "Okay, here's the plan. We'll split into teams. Some of us will scout the area for resources or anything we can use to boost a signal. Lara, you and Zix see if you can salvage any parts from the transport. Maybe we can cobble together some kind of long-range communicator." As the hours wore on, tensions within the group began to rise. The Nausicaan members of the team grew restless, their eyes constantly darting towards the direction of the capital. "We should be there now, fighting for our people's future," one of them growled, pacing back and forth. Randy approached him, his voice calm but firm. "I understand your frustration, but right now, the best way to help our peoples is to work together and find a way out of this mess. Remember what we're fighting for. A future where Nausicaans, humans, and Voth stand united." His words seemed to have an effect, and the team refocused on their tasks. As the alien sun began to dip towards the horizon, Randy and Lara ventured deeper into the surrounding forest, searching for anything that might aid their communication efforts. The Nausicaan wilderness was unlike anything Randy had ever seen. Bioluminescent plants cast an eerie glow in the growing darkness, and strange, chittering sounds echoed from the canopy above. As they pushed through a particularly dense thicket, Randy suddenly stopped short. "Lara, look at this," he breathed, pointing ahead. Before them stood an ancient structure, its weathered stone walls partially reclaimed by the forest. Intricate carvings, faded by time, hinted at its Nausicaan origin. "It looks like some kind of research outpost," Lara said, her eyes wide with excitement. "If we're lucky, there might be old tech inside we can use." They entered the ruins cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the cavernous interior. Dust-covered consoles and strange, bulky devices lined the walls. As Lara examined the ancient technology, Randy couldn't help but be struck by her intensity, her brilliant mind at work. "This is incredible," she murmured, brushing cobwebs from a particularly complex-looking device. "With some modifications, we might be able to use this to boost our communication signal." As they worked side by side, carefully extracting usable components from the ancient machines, Randy felt a familiar warmth growing between them. The shared sense of discovery, the thrill of overcoming impossible odds, it all served to reignite the attraction that had been simmering beneath the surface. Their eyes met over a tangle of wires, and for a moment the universe seemed to shrink to just the two of them. But before either could speak, a crackle of static from Randy's communicator broke the spell. "Randy, come in." It was Zix's voice, urgent and slightly distorted. "We've made progress with the salvaged parts, but we need more power to reach the capital." Randy and Lara exchanged a look, both knowing what needed to be done. "We're on our way back," Randy responded, "and we might have just the solution." As they hurried back to the crash site, Randy's mind raced with the possibilities and the risks of what lay ahead. They had a chance to save the Alliance, but the path forward was fraught with danger. Yet as he glanced at Lara, her willpower matching his own, he felt a surge of confidence. Together, they had already achieved the impossible. Now, they just had to do it one more time. The forest around them grew darker, the alien wilderness coming alive with nocturnal sounds. But for Randy and Lara, the night was just beginning. The real challenge, and the fate of 3 civilizations, awaited them back at the crash site. The real challenge, and the fate of 3 civilizations, awaited them back at the capital. As their makeshift transport, cobbled together from salvaged parts and ancient technology, touched down on the outskirts of the Nausicaan capital, Randy and Lara were struck by the palpable tension in the air. The streets buzzed with nervous energy, and groups of citizens huddled together, speaking in hushed tones. Captain Zorn and a contingent of Nausicaan security forces met them at the landing site, their expressions grim. "We need to move quickly," Zorn said, ushering the team into an armored transport. "The situation has deteriorated rapidly since your disappearance." As they sped through the city streets, Randy caught glimpses of unrest, pockets of protesters waving signs, some demanding answers about the energy crisis, others calling for an end to alien influence. The team exchanged worried glances, the weight of their mission growing heavier with each passing moment. Upon reaching the secure facility housing the Alliance negotiations, they were immediately whisked through a series of checkpoints and security scans. Randy's heart raced as they approached the main chamber, knowing that what transpired in the next few hours could change the course of history for 3 species. The doors slid open, revealing a room thick with tension. Ambassador Steele's face showed visible relief at their arrival, but the other delegates regarded them with a mix of suspicion and impatience. Zarlith, the Voth representative, fixed them with a cold stare. "So you finally decided to grace us with your presence," she hissed, her scaled fingers tapping in irritated rhythm on the polished table. "Perhaps now you can explain your convenient disappearance and these rumors of an energy breakthrough." Ambassador Steele stepped forward, his voice steady despite the pressure. "Esteemed delegates, I assure you that the delay was unavoidable. But now that they've returned, I believe we have a chance to turn this crisis into an opportunity for unprecedented cooperation." He nodded to Lara, who took a deep breath and stepped up to the central display. Her fingers danced across the controls, bringing up a holographic representation of her research. The room fell silent as the delegates leaned in, their curiosity piqued. "What you're seeing," Lara began, her voice growing stronger with each word, "is the result of combining human, Nausicaan, and Voth scientific principles. We've created an energy source that's not only incredibly efficient, but also stable and clean." She activated a small prototype device, and the room filled with a soft, pulsating glow. The light seemed to ripple and dance, casting an almost ethereal quality over the assembled delegates. Murmurs of astonishment rippled through the chamber. High Counselor Grok's eyes widened, his gravelly voice filled with awe. This could revolutionize our entire infrastructure. The implications for Nausicaa alone are staggering." Even Zarlith couldn't hide her interest, leaning in to examine the prototype more closely. "I must admit, the integration of our technologies is impressive, but how can we be certain of its stability on a larger scale?" Randy stepped forward, seizing the moment. "That's where the true power of this alliance comes in. Together, we can refine and implement this technology across all our worlds, but it will take cooperation on an unprecedented scale." He outlined a proposal for a 3-way alliance, focused on joint development and equitable distribution of the new energy technology. As he spoke, Randy could see the delegates' expressions shifting from skepticism to cautious optimism. The negotiations stretched on for hours, with Randy and Lara working tirelessly to address concerns and hammer out the details of the alliance. Just as they seemed to be making real progress, Captain Zorn burst into the room, his face etched with concern. "We have a situation," he announced, his voice tight. "A large crowd has gathered outside, demanding information about the energy breakthrough, and we've detected attempts by Purity Front sympathizers to infiltrate the facility." The room erupted into chaos, with delegates shouting over one another. Randy exchanged a look with Lara, both realizing that the delicate balance they'd achieved was on the verge of collapse. "We need to address the public," Randy said firmly, cutting through the noise. "A joint press conference with representatives from all 3 species. We show a united front and demonstrate the potential of this alliance." There were objections and concerns, but ultimately, the delegates agreed it was the best course of action. As they prepared for the conference, Randy and Lara found themselves alone for a moment in a side room. The tension of the past few days, the shared danger and triumph, seemed to crystallize between them. Without a word, they came together in a passionate embrace, their lips meeting in a kiss that spoke volumes about their shared feelings and the intensity of their experiences. For a brief, electric moment, the fate of civilizations faded away, leaving only their connection. The moment was shattered by the sound of the door opening, They sprang apart as Captain Zorn entered, his expression a mix of embarrassment and urgency. "It's time," he said simply. As they made their way to the press conference, the weight of responsibility settled back on their shoulders. The future of 3 species hung in the balance, and the next few minutes would be crucial in shaping that future. The cameras were rolling, broadcast signals stretching across 3 worlds. As Randy stepped up to the podium, he took a deep breath, feeling the eyes of countless beings upon him. This was it, the moment that would define not just his career, but the course of interstellar relations for generations to come. "Citizens of Earth, Nausicaa, and the Voth Imperium," he began, his voice clear and strong. "Today, we stand on the brink of a new era of cooperation and advancement. Citizens of Earth, Nausicaa, and the Voth Imperium," he began, his voice clear and strong. "Today, we stand on the brink of a new era of cooperation and unprecedented scientific advancement." Randy paused, scanning the sea of faces before him. The tension in the room was palpable, but he could also sense a glimmer of hope in the eyes of those gathered. The energy crisis that threatened to tear us apart has instead become the catalyst for our unity. Through collaboration between our species, we have developed a revolutionary energy source that promises to transform our worlds. As Randy spoke, holographic displays behind him lit up, showcasing the potential applications of the new technology. Cities powered by clean, efficient energy, spacecraft capable of longer and faster journeys, entire ecosystems rejuvenated by the reduction in harmful emissions. Lara stepped forward, her presence commanding attention as she delved into the technical aspects of their breakthrough. She expertly fielded questions from the press, her passion for the science evident in every word. The press conference concluded with a joint statement from the 3 species representatives, pledging to work together to implement the new energy technology across their territories. As the cameras stopped rolling, Randy felt a mix of relief and anticipation wash over him. They had taken the first crucial step, but the real work was just beginning. The next morning, Randy and Lara found themselves at the center of a diplomatic whirlwind as the final day of negotiations began. The grand negotiation chamber buzzed with activity, representatives from all 3 species gathering to hammer out the last details of the alliance. Lara took center stage, presenting a series of demonstrations on the practical applications of the energy prototype. Her expertise shone as she explained how the system could be scaled up to power entire cities and even planets. By integrating Nausicaan plasma containment technology with Voth quantum fluctuation theory and human fusion principles, Lara explained, manipulating a holographic model, we can create a power source that's not only incredibly efficient, but also adaptable to various environments. Randy watched with pride as Lara commanded the room, fielding complex questions from the delegates with ease. However, as the talks progressed, new challenges emerged. Zarlith, the Voth representative, raised her scaled hand. "While the potential of this technology is undeniable, we must address the matter of distribution. The Voth Imperium's contribution to this research was substantial. We believe this entitles us to a larger share of the benefits." The chamber erupted into heated debate. Grok, the Nausicaan High Counselor, leaned forward, his gravelly voice cutting through the noise. "This breakthrough occurred on Nausicaan soil using our resources. We should have primary control over its implementation." Randy stepped in, his diplomatic skills put to the test. "Esteemed delegates, I understand your concerns. However, the true strength of this technology lies in our combined efforts. I propose a balanced approach, equal distribution and joint oversight." He outlined a plan that would see the technology shared equitably among the 3 species, with a joint council overseeing its development and implementation. As Randy spoke, he caught Lara's eye across the room. They exchanged a look of silent support, drawing strength from each other's presence. The negotiations continued, with progress made in fits and starts. Just as it seemed they were nearing a consensus, Captain Zorn burst into the chamber, his face etched with concern. "Ambassador," he said, addressing Randy, "we have a situation. A group of independent traders from the Rigel system has arrived. They're demanding to be included in the alliance, threatening to reveal the technology's existence to other species if left out." The chamber erupted into chaos once more. Delegates argued fiercely about how to handle this new complication. Randy's mind raced, weighing the potential consequences of each option. Suddenly, an idea struck him. He raised his hand, calling for silence. Esteemed delegates, perhaps we've been thinking too small. What if, instead of just an alliance between our three species, we created a larger interstellar cooperative? The room fell silent as Randy continued, outlining his vision. We could use this energy technology as the foundation for a broader framework of collaboration. This would solve our distribution issues and create opportunities for future partnerships. The proposal caused a stir among the delegates. Some saw it as a chance for unprecedented growth, while others feared a dilution of their influence. Randy worked tirelessly to address concerns, with Lara providing crucial scientific input to support his arguments. As the negotiations reached a critical point, alarms blared throughout the facility. A technician rushed in, panic clear on his face. We've detected a virus in our computer systems. It's targeting the energy research data. Without hesitation, Lara sprang into action. I need access to your main terminal, she commanded, already moving towards the central console. Her fingers flew across the holographic interface, lines of code streaming by at dizzying speeds. It's a sophisticated attack, she muttered, her brow furrowed in concentration. But if I can isolate the virus's signature? Minutes ticked by, the tension in the room mounting with each passing second. Finally, Lara let out a triumphant shout. Got it! The virus is contained and the data is secure. A collective sigh of relief swept through the chamber. The delegates looked at Lara with newfound respect, and Randy felt a surge of pride for his partner. With the crisis averted, the momentum shifted decisively in favor of Randy's expanded alliance proposal. The delegates, impressed by the display of cooperation in the face of adversity, began to see the benefits of a broader interstellar partnership. As the final hours of negotiation approached, Randy and Lara found a moment alone in a quiet corridor. The intensity of the past few days had brought them closer than ever. They came together in a passionate embrace, the physical attraction between them amplified by their shared triumphs. We did it, Lara whispered, her eyes shining with a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. Randy nodded, acutely aware of the challenges that still lay ahead. We've made a good start, but the real work is just beginning. They returned to the chamber, where the final details of the agreement were being ironed out. As night fell on the Nausicaan capital, a historic treaty was signed. The Human-Nausicaan Voth Alliance was formalized, with provisions for expansion to include other species. Celebrations erupted throughout the city, the streets illuminated by the clean, efficient glow of the new energy system. Randy and Lara stood on a balcony overlooking the festivities, their hands intertwined. So what's next for us? Lara asked, her voice a mix of excitement and uncertainty. Randy squeezed her hand, his gaze fixed on the horizon. Tomorrow we make the official announcement to the wider galactic community. After that, well, I guess we'll be writing the rulebook for interstellar cooperation as we go. As they looked out over the celebrating city, both knew that the coming days would be crucial in shaping the future of the Alliance and their own lives. The challenges ahead were immense, but for now they allowed themselves to savor this moment of triumph. Triumph. The path ahead was filled with both promise and uncertainty. As the first rays of dawn painted the Nausicaan sky in hues of lavender and gold, Randy and Lara found themselves back in the conference room, preparing for the momentous announcement that would shape the future of interstellar relations. The air hummed with anticipation as they reviewed their notes one last time. I never imagined I'd be part of something this big, Lara said, her voice a mix of excitement and nervous energy. She absently twirled a strand of her iridescent hair around her finger, a habit Randy had come to find endearing. Randy reached out and gave her hand a reassuring squeeze. We've come a long way from that first tense meeting, haven't we? But I can't think of anyone I'd rather have by my side for this. Their moment of quiet reflection was abruptly interrupted by the urgent chime of Randy's communicator. Ambassador Steele's holographic image flickered to life, her face etched with concern. Randy, we have a situation, she said without preamble. A fleet of unknown alien ships has just entered the system. They're on a direct course for Nausicaa. The news sent a jolt of adrenaline through Randy's system. He exchanged a quick glance with Lara, seeing his own mix of concern and grit mirrored in her eyes. "Any indication of their intentions?" Randy asked, already moving towards the door with Lara close behind. "None yet," Steele replied. "But given the timing, it can't be a coincidence. We're convening an emergency meeting of the Alliance leadership in 5 minutes." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. The grand chamber that had hosted their negotiations now buzzed with a different kind of tension as representatives from all 3 species gathered to address this new development. As reports and sensor data streamed in, a clearer picture began to emerge. The newcomers identified themselves as the Zephyrians, a nomadic species whose homeworld had been ravaged by an energy crisis, not unlike the one that had brought humans, Nausicaans, and Voth together. "They claim to have picked up transmissions about our breakthrough," Zarlith, the Voth representative, hissed, her scaled fingers tapping nervously on the table. "They're demanding access to the technology." The room erupted into heated debate. Some saw the Zephyrians as a threat, others as potential allies. As voices rose and tempers flared, Randy stood, his presence commanding attention. "Esteemed colleagues," he began, his voice steady and clear, "I believe we have an opportunity here. We've just formed an alliance based on cooperation and the sharing of resources. What better way to demonstrate our commitment to these ideals than by extending a hand to a species in need?" His words hung in the air for a moment before Grok, the Nausicaan High Counselor, spoke up. "And if they refuse our offer? If they attempt to take the technology by force?" "Then we face that challenge united," Lara interjected, her voice firm. "But let's not assume the worst. We were all strangers once, distrustful of each other. Look how far we've come." As the Zephyrian fleet entered orbit around Nausicaa, a tense calm settled over the capital city. Randy led a hastily assembled diplomatic team to the designated meeting point, a neutral space station in high orbit. The universal translator hummed to life as the Zephyrian leader, a tall, willowy being with skin that shimmered like starlight, stepped forward. "I am Zilara, Pathfinder of the Zephyrian people," she announced, her multifaceted eyes scanning the assembled group. "We come seeking salvation for our people." Randy took a deep breath, acutely aware of the weight of the moment. "Pathfinder Zilara, I am Ambassador Randy Chen of Earth, representing the newly formed Interstellar Cooperative. We've heard of your plight, and we're here to offer our assistance." As Randy outlined the Alliance's proposal, sharing the new energy technology in exchange for the Zephyrians joining their cooperative, he could see the initial suspicion in Zilara's eyes gradually giving way to cautious hope. Meanwhile, back on the surface, Lara worked feverishly with a joint scientific team to prepare a demonstration of the energy technology for their potential new allies. The prototype hummed with power, its pulsing core a testament to the combined ingenuity of 3 species. Just as they were running final checks, alarms blared through the lab. "Power surge detected!" A Voth technician called out, his scaled hands flying over the controls. "The system's overloading." Lara's mind raced, drawing on every ounce of her expertise and the lessons learned from past crises. In a flash of inspiration, she saw the solution, risky, but their only option. "Clear the room," she shouted, sprinting towards the central power conduit. "I can channel the excess energy through my body. My Nausicaan physiology can handle it." Before anyone could stop her, Lara grasped the conductive rods on either side of the surging power core. Energy coursed through her, her bioluminescent skin glowing with an intensity that lit up the entire lab. Randy, having just returned from his successful meeting with the Zephyrians, burst into the lab to find Lara at the center of a maelstrom of energy. Their eyes met across the room, a surge of emotion passing between them that transcended words. For several heart-stopping moments, Lara stood suspended in the energy field, her face a mask of concentration and pain. Then slowly, the alarms quieted, and the power levels stabilized. As Lara released the conduits and stumbled back, Randy rushed to catch her. The assembled scientists and diplomats stood in awe, witnesses to a profound display of trust and cooperation that crossed the boundaries of species. In that moment, the true potential of their alliance became clear to all. As Lara regained her strength, supported by Randy's steady presence, preparations for the official announcement ceremony kicked into high gear. The Grand Plaza of the Nausicaan capital was transformed, decorated with symbols from all four species: human, Nausicaan, Voth, and now Zephyrian. Randy took his place at the podium, the eyes of countless beings upon him. He could feel the weight of the moment, the potential to shape the course of galactic history. As he began to speak, his voice carried across the plaza and beyond, to every corner of the Alliance's combined territories. "Today, we stand at the dawn of a new era," Randy proclaimed, his words ringing with conviction. "An era of unprecedented cooperation, of shared knowledge and resources. Together, we have overcome the challenge that threatened to tear us apart, and in doing so, we have discovered the true power of unity." As Randy spoke, Lara activated the new energy system. A soft, pulsating glow spread across the city, a tangible demonstration of what they had achieved together. The assembled crowd watched in wonder as the light spread, a symbol of hope and possibility. The ceremony concluded with the signing of the Interstellar Cooperative Treaty, each representative adding their signature to the document that would shape the future of their civilizations. As the crowds cheered and delegates exchanged congratulations, Randy's eyes sought out Lara in the throng. Their gazes locked, and in that moment, everything else faded away. The challenges they had faced, the dangers they had overcome, had forged a bond between them that went beyond mere partnership. Without a word, they moved towards each other, drawn together by a force as powerful and inexorable as gravity itself. As they came together in the center of the plaza, surrounded by the representatives of multiple worlds, Randy took Lara's hands in his. "Lara," he began, his voice thick with emotion,
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.